Hello and welcome to the WSET Level 3 Award in Wines mock practical examination session. I've put this session together to help you prepare fully for your WSET Level 3 Award in Wines examination that will be coming up soon. You should have received your sample pack by now, which should contain 4 different samples. Samples labelled 1, 2, 3 and 4. In this first session, we're going to look at samples 1 and 2. Now, in the practical examination, you will have half an hour to assess 2 wines, 1 white, 1 red. You could have a sweet wine as well, so bear that in mind, but you won't have a sparkling wine and you won't have a fortified wine. But otherwise, it could be any white wine, sweet wine, or red wine from the WSET Level 3 Award in Wines syllabus. Okay, now the practical examination, let me just read to you from the specification. I hope that you have a copy of this and that you've read this. This is your guide to passing the examination, okay? You treat this like a checklist to help you understand everything that you need to know to pass the examination. Go through it, tick off the topics as you've looked at them, as you've revised them, as you're sure that you know them, and use this. Once you have ticked off everything, you'll be ready to take the examination. Okay, on page 8 of your specification, you will find right at the bottom, it says Unit 2, the analytical tasting of wine, learning outcome 1. Accurately describe the key characteristics of the principal still wines of the world and use the description to make an assessment of quality and an assessment of readiness for drinking. So what the examiner wants you to do is to write an accurate description of the wine using your systematic approach to tasting, and then use that assessment to make a identification of the quality level: poor, acceptable, good, very good, or outstanding, and the readiness for drinking. Is it ready to drink now, or does it need a bit of time before it'll be ready to drink? Using the specific categories on the systematic approach to tasting. For readiness for drinking, we've got too young, can drink now but has potential for aging, drink now, not suitable for aging, or too old. Okay, so that's what the examiner wants you to do. They want you to present them with a clear description of the wine in the glass in front of you using the systematic approach to tasting. Give them an assessment of the quality that you've made on the basis of your assessment, and also identify its level of readiness for drinking. And they want you to do that for the 2 wines, the white wine and the red wine, and in the exam you'll have half an hour to do it, and of course they'll be served to you completely blind. So what we're going to do for this session is I'm going to leave you to taste the 2 wines, samples 1 and samples 2. Use your systematic approach to tasting in order to help you write those tasting notes. Bear in mind that this is about points collection, okay? Examination technique. So you need to remember to pick up those marks as you go along. And again, let's have a chat about that now. So for the appearance, you will get 2 marks, 1 for noting the intensity and 1 for noting the colour of the wine. Quickly move on to the nose. Don't spend too much time on the appearance. There are more marks in the rest of the paper. So quickly move on to the nose, where you'll be asked to assess the intensity of the nose and then the aroma characteristics. And what they're looking for, you've got 7 marks here. Sorry, you've got 6 marks here. Sorry, no, you have got 7 marks here. So you've got a mark for intensity, 5 marks for aroma characteristic, and then 1 mark for development. Okay, so 7 marks available to you for the nose. Aroma characteristics, you've got 5 marks, but those 5 marks must be split across primary, secondary, and tertiary characteristics. If you have a wine in front of you that's got all 3 of those characteristics, for example, let's say a white Burgundy, a Meursault or a Puligny Montrachet with a bit of age on it, then you'll be expected to observe primary characteristics, which are derived from fruit in the fermentation, secondary characteristics, which are derived from winemaking such as malolactic fermentation and the use of oak, and then tertiary characteristics which come from bottle age. And the examiner is looking for you to pick up at least 1 mark for primary, 1 mark for secondary, 1 mark for tertiary. There are 2 marks left. These are floating. You can use them across any of those 3 categories if you want to. So you can pop in another primary, you can pop in another secondary. So for our Merso example, for example, you might say apple and lemon. They'd be your 2 primary. You could say vanilla and butter. They would be your 2 secondary. Butter coming from malolactic fermentation, vanilla coming from oak. And then you've got a tertiary characteristic you must highlight as well. Honey might be a good example of a bottle age characteristic you'd expect on a Merso. And that's where you get your 5 marks from. Okay, so for nose, you've got 5 marks. On the palate, you've got 9 marks for a white wine, 10 marks for a red wine, because you don't need to comment on tannin for your white wine. So that's a mark for sweetness, a mark for acidity, a mark for alcohol, a mark for tannin if it's a red, a mark for body, a mark for flavour intensity, and a mark for finish. And then you get 3 marks for aroma, for flavour characteristics. Okay, so that's 3 marks for flavour characteristics. And again, if you've got a Merso with all those 3 different characteristics, primary, secondary, and tertiary, you must have 1 from each. 1 primary, 1 secondary, 1 tertiary. Okay, and then you'll get your full 3 marks. If you forget the tertiary, you'll only get 2 marks, okay? Even if you've put in, say, 3 secondary or 3 primary, because you haven't mentioned that tertiary, you won't get that mark for it, okay? So remember to bear that in mind as well. You will then move on to the conclusion, and you'll need to make an assessment of the quality level, whether it's poor, acceptable, good, very good, or outstanding. And that, of course, is based on the wine's balance, the wine's length, its intensity, its complexity. So use those 4 characteristics to help you identify the quality. And then you've got the level of readiness for drinking. Too young, can drink now, but has potential for aging. Drink now, not suitable for aging or further aging, or too old. Okay, so you've got all of those characteristics to look at for your conclusion as well. Okay. Give yourself half an hour to taste samples 1 and 2. Chill sample 1 ever so slightly. Then watch the feedback videos and self-mark your papers. If you have any questions about the papers and any of the marking categories that I gave to you during the videos, then of course please don't hesitate to get in touch. I'd like to review your papers anyway, so once you've completed them, do send me a copy by email. You have my email address. Follow this by watching videos 3 and 4. Follow this by tasting samples 3 and 4. This is a second mock practical examination paper. Watch the videos, send me the papers for feedback. I hope you enjoy this tasting activity. I hope it achieves the objective of helping you prepare fully for the examination which is coming up. Don't hesitate, as I said earlier, to ask me any questions. If you have anything that you want to go over with me, I'm always happy to help. Good luck.